So if you tune into this video, you're obviously interested in buying an XFR, or maybe you already have an XFR, or you've just bought one. So this video is all about how much this car actually cost me since I bought it. It's been almost a year now that I've had the car, and wow, how time flies. And I've actually got a cheat sheet here to take you guys through the numbers, because I can give you what it cost me in my currency, but I need to also give you guys the cost in dollars and pounds so that you guys can understand what I'm actually talking about. The first thing I had to do when I bought the car is repair the wheels. All four wheels were buckled, and I knew that when I test drove the car because it had a terrible vibration at around 80 kilometers per hour. So I had the wheels repaired. I actually thought that I'd have to replace all four wheels, and the cost of the wheels was eye-watering to replace them, and I decided I would rather try and see if they could be repaired, and luckily they were able to repair them. At the same time, I changed the color of the wheels because the wheels were the standard silver, and I decided to go with gloss black. And they powder coated them for me, and I was very, very happy with the results. I love the gloss black look on the car. It just looks so much meaner, and you know, if you really just want your car to look meaner, put black wheels on. That's all I can say. So the cost of that was 14,000 Rand to repair all four wheels and paint them, which was $961.12, or £699.31. So that's what it cost just to do the wheels. And then immediately after that, I replaced the tires, and that cost me 10,000 Rand. I had to replace the two rear tires. The front tires were still good, so I didn't change them. But I had to put two new rear tires on the back, and those were 285, 35, 20, and those cost me 10,000 Rand, which amounts to $686.51, or £499.51. Then I had the ride sorted out. The car was driving nice and smooth again, and it was great to take it out on the highway and really feel the power that this car actually has. Then the very next thing I did was I had the transmission serviced. I'm very fortunate that here in South Africa we have ZF service outlets around the country, and we have two here where I live. They quoted me a 6,000 Rand to have the transmission service, but they were running a special at the time, and they quoted me 3,800 Rand for the service, which was only $260, which amounted to 189 pounds. I was astounded at that, and the dealer would have quoted me around 12,000 Rand. And I mean, 12,000 Rand is about, what, $890, which is around 650 pounds. So I saved a hell of a lot of money there with the transmission service, and I was very fortunate. I even did a video on that, and I'll post a link to that video at the end of this video if you guys are interested in watching that. When I drove the car away from ZF that same day on the trip home, the brake service indicator warning light came on, and I realized, okay, I knew the brakes were done. I knew it when I bought the car. I could see it. There was a massive ridge on all four discs, and I knew that where the brake pad sensor actually sits, it was sitting on that lip, and the lip was actually cutting into the sensor. So even though the brake pads still had a bit of life on them, the discs were so badly worn that they were cutting into the sensor, and that triggered the brake warning light. I just decided, well, since I'm going to be doing the brakes, I might as well just replace all four discs and pads at the same time. I took it to the dealer to do that, and the dealer charged me 30,000 Rand. They quoted me more than that, but I asked for discount, and they charged me 30,000 Rand to do that, which equates to $2,059, or 1,498 pounds. So that one was not cheap. I then decided to leave the actual service until the service indicator came on, and that came on about a week ago, and I then booked the car in for its annual service. The car had not had its major service 2 years ago, which it should have had 2 years ago. And that service included changing all the spark plugs. And every 8 years, the spark plugs on these cars have to be changed, or 100,000 miles, which is 160,000 kilometers. So that service was not done because the owner of the car was actually ill, and the car stood for a very, very long time, and he eventually passed away from his illness. So unfortunately, that service was not done. So, and one can understand why. But I called the dealer and I got a quote, and they quoted me 22,000 Rand for this big service. And that included the spark plugs, the air filters, the oil filter, the oil change, the supercharger pulley belt, as well as the auxiliary drive belt. Now, before I actually did the service, I was actually very fortunate because Jaguar contacted me, and Jaguar themselves contacted me, and I was astounded when I received this phone call, because they told me that for being a loyal Jaguar client, and this being my third Jaguar over 7 years now, they were giving me a 5,000 Rand gift voucher. So on my next service, I was very, very happy about that. They sent me an email, and they said that I must just present the email, print it out, present it to the dealer when I take it in for my next service. And it was actually 50% of the cost of the parts up to the value of 5,000 Rand. And I knew that the service was going to be so big that I would utilize literally all of that voucher. So I told the dealer about it when I booked the car in, and they said, no problem. The car has just had its service now a few days ago, and I'm very, very happy with the work that they've done on the car. The car is driving so nice. It actually started developing a little bit of a stutter when the engine was cold. So there was like a slight misfire, and it would go away when the car warmed up. And my guess there was that one of the spark plugs was actually fouled, and since they've replaced the spark plugs, that's gone away, and the engine is so smooth, and it just has even more power than it had, which I'm now feeling this car's true power potential. Keep in mind, this car hasn't been remapped or anything like that. It hasn't been tuned. It's just stock standard. It turned out that that quote of 22,000 Rand, which was the equivalent of $1,500 or 1,098 pounds, came down to an actual bill when I collected the car of 14,000 Rand, which was $961 or 699 pounds. So that was the car's major service, which it hadn't had. So the total service cost since I've actually owned this car in the past year has been 71,000 Rand, and that equates to around $4,929 or 3,586 pounds. That's what I've spent in maintenance on the car in the past year. But again, keep in mind that the car did not have it needed the brake service done, it needed the transmission oil change done, and it needed a major service done, because those services were not done by the previous owner. Taking into account the cost that I paid for the car, which is 300,000 Rand, the owner wanted 350,000 Rand, but I stuck to my guns, and I was pretty hard in my negotiations with them, and they eventually agreed, even after me driving off. And I said no. They called me back and they said they would accept my offer of 300,000 Rand. So I paid 300,000 Rand for the car. So with the total service costs, the total price of the car came to 371,800 Rand. And that amounts to a total cost, including the cost of the car, of $25,524, or in pound terms, 18,571 pounds. Considering the fact that I was looking at XFRs that were just off the bat, without even considering potential service costs or future costs, they were all going in the region of 400,000 Rand, which was 100,000 Rand more than I paid for this car at the time. And I mean, that amounts to around $28,000. Which is probably around 20,000 pounds. And considering the fact that with all the maintenance I've spent on this car, getting all the maintenance up to date, and the cost that it actually cost me for this car, it still cost me less than it would have cost to actually buy an XFR from a used dealer, because I bought this car privately, out of hand, with no warranties and no guarantees that I was actually buying a good car. And I must admit that I was very nervous when I bought the car, because I had read some horror stories on the forums where guys were having coolant leaks and all kinds of issues with their XFR. But, you know, it's like I always say, when you buy a car, always check that it does have service history. Now, I could see that the previous owner was meticulous when it came to servicing this car, and he did look after it very, very well. He lived on a farm, and unfortunately, the bad dirt roads that they had on the farm damaged all four wheels, and that's how they got damaged. But they used to drive the car to church on a Sunday and then drive home, and they did the occasional long distance trip with the car as well. So all the mileage that it had on the car, which was 44,000 kilometers, and that's about 32,000 miles that it had on the clock when I bought the car, and it was the lowest mileage XFR that I could find as well. And it now has 50,000 kilometers on the clock, which is around 36,000 miles. And so I've done about 6,000 kilometers with this car in the last year. Now, keeping in mind that we had COVID, we couldn't drive even on the highways for quite a few months, so it probably would have had more mileage on the clock. But I must just say that the car does like to be driven at high speed now and again. So you do need to find an autobahn or some quiet piece of highway where you can actually just gun it and take it through the gears, get those RPM up into the red, because it just cleans everything out in the engine. And the other thing is, just another tip, never use low grade fuel for your XFR. If you're thinking of buying one, use the highest grade of fuel that you can get, because not only will it keep the car performing well, but it will stop the engine from getting carbon buildup and all kinds of crap over a long period of time, especially if you do a lot of town driving and stop-start driving. So thank you for watching. I hope this video has been helpful. Stay tuned for the next video. Cheers. Bye.